சரியா? So Hariom again, எல்லாருக்கும். Sometimes அது எனக்கு வந்து particularly Om has a very ஒரு deep association I have, and I find it extremely அதோட the sound is very calming, very soothing. There are many sounds. In fact, one of my gurus has said that the sound of Om that gets generated from the throat by the human being is merely a cheap representation or a cheap reproduction of the original sound. The original sound of Om, அது நம்ம வந்து reproduce பண்ணி நம்மளோட வைఖரி நம்ம தொண்டை வழியா we try to reproduce, and whatever you hear as Om is a cheap reproduction of that sound, because that sound is not something that can be reproduced by in fact இப்போ நீங்க வந்து you go to a பீச்ல போய் அந்த ஷெல் இருக்குல்ல, சின்ன வயசுல எல்லாம் பண்ணுவோமே, அந்த ஷெல் என்ன சொல்லுவா தமிழ்ல, you find it on the beach. அதை எடுத்து காதுல வச்சு
கிளிஞ்சல் சங்கு இதெல்லாம் வருது.
சங்கு இருக்கு இல்லையா, அது வந்து காதுல வச்சுட்டோம்னா there is a certain sound to the ocean that you hear. Om is supposed to be of that nature. The sound of Om is supposed to be of that nature. It's a sinusoidal wave. It's a sinusoidal wave. So a wave sound varnam. So to reproduce it through the vocal cords would be a cheap reproduction of it. The best way is to listen to the sound. So in fact there are methods, yoga methods irukku, where you close your ears, and when you close your ears and of course the eyes too, உள்ளுக்குள்ள ஒரு வேவ் சத்தம் கேட்கும். Brahmari வந்து you do something. Brahmariல you actually you use the breath to generate a certain effect. But இது நான் சொல்றது வெறுமை வச்சுக்கிறது, அப்படியே காதை மூடின அப்படியே வச்சுட்டோம்னா காதுக்குள்ள ஒரு you will hear some movement in the inner ear. அது ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தோம்னா that will bring you to that experience of Om. So there are methods to do Om meditation அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. But very nice. Good morning. இது வந்து a little off the topic, but it's nice to இன்னைக்கு என்ன தெரியல, I just felt like we'll listen to Om and start. Okay. In fact இதுல வந்து சில ஸ்கூல்ஸ்ல வந்து they will greet each other as Om. In fact நீங்க இந்த தயானந்த் சரஸ்வதி ஸ்கூல்ல எல்லாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா they will greet each other saying Om. ஸ்ரீலங்கால வந்து ஓம்னு சொல்லுவா, தெரியலையா? அந்த ஸ்ரீலங்கன் தமிழ்ல இன்னும் யாரெல்லாம் அந்த தெனாலி, கமலாசனோட தெனாலி படம் பார்த்தோமோ, ஓம் ஓம் அப்படிம்பா எஸ் சொல்றதுக்கு. So Om is a very commonly used sound நம்மளோட இதுல in our tradition.
தைத்திரிய உபநிஷத்துலயும் அதுல வரும், அந்த ஹோத்தாலாம் இருக்காது, ஹோத்தா அந்த யஜ்ஞானம் பண்ணும்போது அந்த அவர் வந்து அர்த்த ஒவ்வொரு வேத பண்டிதர் சொல்றதுக்கு ஓம் அப்படின்னு
சொல்லுவார். கரெக்ட். அண்ட் ஓம் வந்து நிறைய இதுல of course நமக்கு கணபதி அதர்வ சீர்ஷத்துல ஓம் இதி அக்ஷரம் பிரம்மா. So Om is the indestructible Brahman. So it's very beautiful. I mean, Om Pati, maybe we should discuss sometime. It's a very profound this thing. It's a very simple sound பாருங்க. Akara, Ukara, Makara. ரொம்ப simple sound. The whole Mandukya Upanishad is on Om. Mandukya Upanishadல இருக்கிற 13 verses வந்து Om. அதை எடுத்து மாண்டூக்கிய உபனிஷத் வந்து நமக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் டைரக்டா புரியாதுன்னு சொல்லி கௌடபாதர் வந்து காரிக்கை எழுதி 200 verses is written on மாண்டூக்கிய உபனிஷத். யாருமே மாண்டூக்கிய உபனிஷத் டைரக்டா சொல்லி கொடுக்க மாட்டா. They will look at the Karika, which is the commentary by Gaudapada. Gaudapada is Shankara Bhagavad Padaoda Guruoda Guru, Paramaguru. So the Mari Om has a very it has to be understood. Om can only be transmitted. The meaning of Om can be only transmitted. Dakshinamurti Stotrathula varume. Pranavam. Om is also known as Pranavam. So அது எந்த ஸ்லோகம் அது? பிரணவார்த்தாய.
ஓம் நம பிரணவார்த்தாய.
ஓம் நம பிரணவார்த்தாய.
சுத்தஞான
நம பிரணவார்த்தாய சுத்தஞானைகமூர்த்தயே. Correct. So pranava arthaya. So Dakshinamurti, when he transmits, what he's transmitting is the meaning of Om. சரி, நம்ம வந்து இப்போ we will go into Upanishads. So now the last time we saw the structure of the Vedic literature. What I'd like to do is today we will go into the Upanishads. A little bit before that, I want to again refresh our ideas on what we saw earlier. Okay. This is what we have. All right. So we said the Vedic literature is classified largely. Vedic literature classified, Ivar Pannar, Yar Pannar, Vedavyasa. Classified into large 4 sections: Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. Each of the books, each of the classification has 4 subsections: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. And the classification was primarily based on the content that was there, and the content was also associated with a certain ashrama that you are in, which means if you're a brahmachari, you will focus on the Samhita. If you're a grahastha, you'll focus on the Brahmana. If you're in Vanaprastha, you focus on the Aranyaka. If you're in the Sannyasa ashrama, you focus on the Upanishad. Okay. And then we said it was large. If you can group it in a certain different way, for a Vedanta student or a spiritual seeker, you would want to look at the Vedas as 2 parts: Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda vande, it gives you the Samhita, Brahmana, and the Aranyaka, a large portion of the Aranyaka. They put together, they give the knowledge of the objective world, the world outside. The world outside the consciousness that I am. Idukku viparitama, idukku different ennalla irko, all that knowledge of the objective world, the physical sciences, the mathematics, everything is the biology, chemistry, ellame vande is the knowledge of the objective world. Even the knowledge of the celestial bodies, astrology, astronomy, astrophysics, celestial bodies, and also Anu. You go down to quarks, photons, quarks, bosons, boson varikum pona kuda, all of this knowledge is about the objective world, the world outside the consciousness that I am. The consciousness that I am is different from all of this because I can know all of this. எவ்வளோ சின்ன ஒரு பார்ட்டிகிளா இருந்தாலும், even if I go through a 1000x electron microscope, I am the one who's seeing it. I am the one who's perceiving it. Correct? So observer is me. The knower of that is me. So I am still different from that. So that is the knowledge of the objective world. Adhe madri na brahmandam anda brahmanda brahmalokathu varaikum pona kuda, even if I've got the knowledge of the brahmaloka, that is the knowledge of the objective world. Any object, any knowledge that we have that is outside is the objective world. Then comes the Jnana Kanda. So this is called Karma Kanda, objective world. Jnana Kanda is the knowledge of the subject, which is me, which is I, the consciousness. Idudha vandu is dealt in the Upanishads. Okay, idu varaikum paathom. And then we said Upanishads vandu, there are 10 principal Upanishads. Okay. Why 10 அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு we will come to that. But right now, what we usually study are 10 principal Upanishads. Isha, Kena, okay, so அது ஒரு ஸ்லோகம் இருக்கு அதுக்கு, அந்த 10க்கு சொல்றதுக்கு ஈஷா கேன கட்டன்னு போகும். But here I've organized it by the Veda. Okay, so if you look at the Rig Veda, you've got Aitareya Upanishad coming from the Rig Veda. Yajurvedathila, Shukla Yajurvedathila in the Isha Vasya and Brihadaranyaka. Krishna Yajurvedathila in the you've got Kathopanishad. You may have heard of it. And Taittiriya Upanishad. From Samaveda comes Kenopanishad and Chandogya Upanishad. Atharva Veda lende comes Prashna, Mundaka, Mandukya. Okay. So the name of the Upanishads are different. The name of the Upanishads are an Upanishad is given a name depending on different things. I mean, it's not that the name of the Upanishad essentially is because of the author. Not everywhere it is like that. Or edathila ipo Aitareya Upanishad is because Aitareya Muni. Itareya he was the son of a Rishika or a lady called Itari. So that is why his name became Aitareya. So avaroda Upanishad on the Aitareya Upanishad. Isha Vasya, because the first word of the Upanishad starts with Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam அப்படினு ஆரம்பிக்கும். So அதனால இது Isha Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka வந்து அது பெரிய காடு மாதிரி அந்த Upanishad. There are 600 over verses in that. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Brihad, பெருசு. Kathopanishad because it's story, it's based on stories, Katha. Taittiriya Upanishad is because it was given out by Titiri birds. இது யாக்ஞவல்கியோட ஸ்டோரி போன தடவை பார்த்தோம்ல நம்ம. We saw the story of Yagnavalkya who had to vomit out all what he had learned, and then what he produced was the Shukla Yajurveda. So Krishna Yajurveda அவர் கக்கினது வெளியில கக்கினது வந்து there were small birds. The other disciples of Vaishampayana took the form of Titiri birds, and then அவா கம்போஸ் பண்ணது தைத்திரிய உபனிஷத். அவள்கிட்டேந்து வந்தது தைத்திரிய உபனிஷத். Keno Upanishad because the first word is Kena. Who அப்படின்னு ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றது Keno Upanishad starts with the first word Kena. Chandogya Upanishad. Then Prashna Upanishad has 6 prashnas, 6 questions. The disciples ask the Guru. Pippaladan or Guru அவர்கிட்ட வந்து 6 கேள்வி கேட்பாங்க. Mundaka is a rishi. Mandukya Upanishad is also because Manduka was a rishi, of him Mandukya. Mandukya also is because the reason is Mandu அப்படினா தமிழ் மண்டு இல்ல, மண்டுனா frog. So Mandukya Upanishad is because it jumps, the verses and all, it jumps like a frog. So அதுக்காக அது Mandukya Upanishad அப்படின்னு அதுக்கு ஒரு பேரு. சரியா? So this is a brief overview of the number of Upanishads that we have. 10 Upanishads is what we usually are exposed to. And I'll tell you why 10 is because of the grace of Shankara Bhagavad-pada. Adi Shankaracharya oda grace nala இந்த 10 நம்ம கிடைச்சது. அது ஏன் அப்படின்னா that is because of the grace of Vedavyasa himself. So then we will go to another chart slightly above. Okay, so don't worry, எல்லா செஷனும் சார்ட்டா இருக்காது. some sessions you're showing some charts. I'm just showing it so that we are able to get a visual pictorial of this whole construct before we dive into it. Okay, now let me pause here the screen for a couple of minutes on Adi Shankara. Okay, now Adi Shankara எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும். I'm hardly there'd be anybody in our culture who doesn't know of or heard of Adi Shankara. Okay, now Adi Shankara Vijayam adu tani satsangamlam பண்ணலாம். There are people who can do a lot of this thing. In fact, Nochur Venkatraman has written a voluminous book on Adi Shankara's life history, and he has actually gone and done research on the various things that Adi Shankara has done during his lifetime, and He's documented it. Anyways, adu oru pakkam. But the basic thing is, and then there is one small book also I have kind of collated together for children to look at in terms of understanding Adi Shankara's story. And the PDF, when I can send it out, pakala. But I think most of us know the stories of Adi Shankara, right? The important thing as Vedanta students or students of spiritual yearning, and since we have come, we are in this culture, in this context of this culture, and we are exposed to this literature, it's good to know a little bit about Adi Shankara's importance in this whole story. Yenna, before Adi Shankara, Vedas existed, Vedanta existed, Upanishads existed, all of this existed. Okay. But what happened is, as we looked at Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, Karma Kanda was focused more. Okay. There is something called as Shad Darshanas within our Shastras. There are 6 types of knowledge, philosophies or knowledge that we have. The 6 are Nyaya Vaisheshika, Yoga Vedanta, Mimamsa, Sankhya Yoga, Mimamsa Vedanta. So, mono group. So, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, idu oru group. 2, Nyaya and Vaisheshika. Then you have Yoga and Sankhya. And then you have Mimamsa and Vedanta. Mimamsa is called as Purva Mimamsa, Vedanta is called as Uttara Mimamsa. Okay. Now, what was popular at that time? All these philosophies were popular during the time of Adi Shankara. And what was very largely followed was Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, which means Karma Kanda. Appadina, people believed that doing good karma, I can attain to heaven. I can attain to the highest possibility. Highest possibility was Swarga. Okay. Highest possibility at a point in time, people believed was Swarga, which is why Punya Karyam Nariya Pannom, Punya Karyam Pannom, Pavam Panakudadu, Punyam Pannom, Pavam Panakudadu irundhudu. Okay. And people were stunted in their understanding and their potential. They thought the highest they could reach to is Swarga. Adanalada, even somebody like a Trishanku Maharaj wanted to create his own Swarga. In the story, theriyum illaya, namakku chinna vayasile padichirukom namba. Vishwamitra vandu, he created a Trishanku Swargam for him. He replicated Swarga for him. Ena Swargathula, he wanted to go into Swarga with his physical body. In the udaloda enakku poganum appadina he desired. Mela pona onne angenda thalli uttava. Nee udambala inda you cannot bring this papa sharira up here, appdin solli thalli uttata. And then he went and pleaded to Vishwamitra, and then Vishwamitra wanted to show his power. So now unakaga Trisanku Swargam pandren appdin solli anga thonga vittaru avara. Adha நம்ம யாராவது நடுவுல எங்கயாவது தொங்கறா அப்படின்னா we tell them Trisanku Swargathla தொங்கறா அப்படிம்பால. That's because it's between earth and the Swarga. But I'm saying at that time the desire was so predominant to attain Swarga, heaven. Because heavenல வந்து உங்களுக்கு தாகம் கிடையாது, பசி கிடையாது, தூக்கம் கிடையாது, only ஐஸ்வர்யம், ஜாலியா இருக்கலாம். Only problem is it ends. And the end வந்து கொஞ்சம் லாங்கா இருக்கலாம். Depending on the amount of punya that you do, the amount of time that you spend in Swarga is commensurate to that. It's proportionate to the amount of punya that you accumulate. So இவ்ளோ புண்ணியம் இருந்ததுன்னா இவ்ளோ ஸ்வர்க்கம் டைம் கிடைக்கும், இவ்ளோ புண்ணியம் இருந்ததுன்னா அவ்ளோ ஸ்வர்க்கம் டைம் கிடைக்கும். This has been the aspiration for many centuries and years. Which means, what gives you this? If I want, so now my aspiration is Swarga. What will give me Swarga? Vedathila, the Karma Kanda gives me Swarga. Vedathila, the Karma Kandathila vandu, there are many portions of the Karma Kanda which says how can you attain the highest Swarga. Okay. And there are also methods to go up until Brahmaloka, which means Bhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha varaikum polam. But then enga ponalum thirumba varanungiradhu irukku. That is what Vedanta tells you, that wherever you go, you have to eventually come down to a lower form. Because எங்க போனாலும் you can't, அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு there is a certain energy that sustains you there when you drain out. ஏன்னா ஸ்வர்கா is only போகஸ்தானம். ஸ்வர்கத்துக்கு போனா கூட போகஸ்தானம் தான் அது, which means you are only exhausting your desires, you're only clearing off. So you've got so much of punya and you go there. As you experience bhoga, your punya ksheenaha bhavati, and the punya keeps reducing. So adu edavadhu oru time la zero agumla, appo you come back, திரும்ப வாடா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருப்போம் ஒருத்தன். இங்க இருந்து போனல, வாடா உனக்கு இருக்கு அப்படின்னு. So this is what it is. But then at that time, this was the aspiration. Now when Adi Shankara came, he saw there's a very sad state of affairs. Because today we talk about spirituality in ரொம்ப சர்வசாதாரணமா பேசுறோம்ல, அந்த டைம்ல it was not so accessible to everybody. Literature, knowledge, scriptures was kept by only some people. அதுக்கு நடுவுல யாருக்காவது திடீர்னு ஞானோதயம் பிறந்து வளர்ந்து அவ வந்துடுறானா அதெல்லாம் ஒரு சுனாமி. Tsunamis don't happen daily. Those are accidents. Exception cases la திடீர்னு there will be somebody who will on his own get a certain knowledge, a revelation or whatever. But those are exceptions. But if somebody needs to attain, now Adi Shankara questioned what is that highest. He said, you are only looking at this portion of the Vedas. There is this portion called the Vedanta Upanishads. இது நீங்க பார்க்கவே இல்லையே. பார்த்தாலும் சாண்ட் பண்ணிட்டு போயிடுறோம், ஈஷாவாசிமிதம் சர்வம் அப்படின்னு சாண்ட் பண்ணிட்டு போயிடுறோம். நம்ம ஹோமத்துல எல்லாம் எடுத்துனா கூட புருஷ சுத்தம் கூட சாண்ட் பண்ணிட்டு போயிடுறோம் பிரமாதமா. We enjoy chanting. So he looked at it and said that, hey, there are portions in the Upanishads, there are portions in Vedanta or whatever at that time, whatever it is called, the Jnana Kanda. He said there is jnanam, there is subject matter here that leads you to a state which is higher than Swarga. And that can be attained only through jnanam, not through karma. So in the differentiation was brought in by Adi Shankara. Karmatala, in the knowledge or the state which is higher than the Swargaloka, he recognized there is a state that is higher than the Swargaloka, which is Aham Brahmasmi. Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. So there is this Brahman which is Advitiyam, and I can attain to that state. Appadingiradhu, any human can attain to that state. Appadingiradhu Vedantala irukku அப்படின்னு அவர் பார்த்தார். And that's been taught also. Then he realized this knowledge cannot be obtained through karma. And he went around the whole continent, subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, trying to, through Vivadam, through Samvadam, actually. Through Samvadam and debate, he will prove the point that karmam panni at the most you will get is Swarga. ஞானத்தை அடைஞ்சேன்னா மோக்ஷம் கிடைக்கும். மோக்ஷா, the highest purushartha can be attained அப்படின்னு சொல்லி he brought it to light. Right? There are 4 purusharthas. Dharma, artha, it starts with kama, artha, dharma, moksha. ஒரு விதத்துல சொல்லிக்கலாம் அதை, depending on the way we present it. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Moksha is the final purushartha. Purushartha is what I aspire for. So many years ago, most people would only aspire for dharma, artha, kama. These 3. Adi Shankara brought this out and said that moksha is the highest aspiration that one must have. And then how do I do it? Go to the Jnana Kanda. Where is the Jnana Kanda found? In the Upanishads. He brought it. It actually, there is a Sanskrit movie on Adi Shankara. When you get an opportunity, YouTube la irukku. Ipo nanna alaga subtitles lam potta adula. I watched this about 15-20 years ago, but appo vandu the subtitles were not that great. Ipo they have really cleaned up the subtitles. அதுல it is shown he will go to the Guru Govinda Bhagavad Pada and அவர்கிட்ட சொல்லுவார், இதெல்லாம் இந்த தூசி படிஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கும். A lot of the scripture தூசி படிஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கும். அவர் போய் கேட்பார், என்னது இதெல்லாம் இப்படி தூசி படிஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கு அப்படின்னு. அப்போ the Guru will say, there are not many who are wanting to listen to this. ஏன்னா எல்லாருக்குமே போகம் தான் வேணும். I want to enjoy more, I want to enjoy more and more. I want to suffer less, I want to suffer less and less. I want to enjoy more and more. This is where we are stuck. I want to completely rid myself of suffering. இல்ல கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டம் இருந்தா பரவாயில்ல, போகம் நிறைய இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி தான் இருக்கும் நம்ம. கரெக்டா? இது he brings it out to say that you can obtain complete freedom from suffering, which is moksha, but it does not belong to the body. Karma kanda belongs to the physical self, the physical body. Jnana kanda does not. It operates at a psychological level and then it leads you to moksha. So this is what Adi Shankara brought. அவர் அந்த தூசி படிஞ்சின்றது எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்து நான் இது பண்றேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி, the first work that actually Govind Bhagavad Pada told him to do as a bhashya was Vishnu Sahasranama. So அவர்கிட்ட சொல்றார், விஷ்ணு சஹஸ்ரநாமம் பாஷ்யம் பண்ண, அப்புறம் நான் பார்க்குறேன் நீ எப்படி எழுதுறேன்னு. அதுக்கு தகுந்தபடி he is interested in commenting upon these Upanishads and all that, but he says first நீ இது பண்ணுப்பா அப்படின்னு. And then அவரோட விஷ்ணு சஹஸ்ரநாமம் பாஷ்யத்தை பார்த்துட்டு then his guru says, okay, you're ready for it, now go for it அப்படின்னு. So then he goes and starts commenting upon the rest of the work. Now let us come back to this. Now Adi Shankara he is commented upon importantly 3 things. Prasthanatraya அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. Prasthanatraya. Why is it called Prasthanatraya? Is because it is in the portion mattum parunga first. Look at the right side. Left side we'll talk about it later. The right side is Prasthanatraya, which means there are 3 scriptures that help you to go. Prasthanam. Prasthanamna in the current state lend you go towards the highest goal, which is moksha. Mokshathukku eppadi prasthanam pannom? Prasthanamna to proceed or to go, to gamanam appdin solluvom illaya. Prasthanam. These are the 3 works that you look at if you are a mumukshu. Mumukshuna mokshum ichchati iti mumukshuhu. So somebody who is desirous of moksha, he is called a mumukshu. Somebody who is more jnanam ichchati, jignasu. Correct. சம்ஸ்கிருத பண்டிதர்கள்லாம் வந்துட்டாங்க. கரெக்ட். ஸோ அது மாதிரி மோக்ஷம் இச்சதி முமுக்ஷு. அது மாதிரி he says that these are the 3 works or scriptures that offer you the solution to what you're desiring. I am desiring moksha, go to Bhagavad Gita, go to Upanishads, go to Brahma Sutra. So these 3 are called Prasthanatraya. Now these are the 3 that he classified. So who did this? In the மூணுத்தையும் பாருங்க அப்படின்னு சொன்னது Adi Shankara. Now why I am pointing out the significance of Adi Shankara and the journey of understanding Vedanta is this. He is the one who called out these 3 and he said, these 3, look at these 3. Now what he did, Bhagavad Gita is obviously available then. He did Bhashya on Bhagavad Gita. He did Bhashya on Brahma Sutra. He did Bhashya on Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is a work composed by a rishi called Badarayana. Badarayana is another name for Vedavyasa. வேதவியாசருக்கு இன்னொரு பேரு பாதராயணா. வேதவியாசருக்கு பல பேர் இருக்கு. இன்னொரு பேர் வந்து கிருஷ்ணத்வைபாயனா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ஒரு பேரு. பாதராயணா இஸ் another name. பாதராயணா வந்து he composed Brahma Sutra. It is known as Nyaya Prasthana. Okay, Prasthana Trayala, Brahma Sutra is known as Nyaya Prasthana. Upanishad is known as Shruti Prasthana. Shruti, because it is in the Vedas, Shruti Prasthana. Bhagavad Gita is known as Smriti Prasthana, because it is composed by Vedavyasa in the Mahabharata. Okay. Now, Brahma Sutra is a composition of 500 odd shlokas, 560 odd verses. It's a sutra. Now, those who know what is a sutra, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, you would know that sutras are very, very short sentences, very short sentences, cryptic sentences. You have to read it with the commentary. Cryptic sentences, you cannot understand it directly. Somebody has to comment upon it. Somebody has to write a commentary upon it. Now, Brahma Sutra commentary was written by Adi Shankara. Okay. He wrote the commentary on Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra commentary eludarche, what he found was that Brahma Sutra makes a reference to 10 Upanishads. It makes a reference. Because Brahma Sutra, as I said, it's very, they're pithy, they're very short sentences and short this thing. And they don't waste words. Sutra abdingarthukke vandu, when a scripture is a sutra, there is very little wastage of words. So if I want to mention some, for example, if I want to say vowels அப்படின்னு சொல்லணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், அது சம்ஸ்கிருதத்துல எப்படி ஸ்வராகான்னு சொல்லலாம். But there is another way of referring to a vowel. Ach அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். Correct, thanks. Ach அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். You can say ach, which means அது மாயேஸ்வர சூத்ராணின்னு இருக்கு. அந்த சூத்திரத்துல ஐ ஒன்றில் இருக்கு அப்படின்னு வரும். So adula லேந்து இச் வரைக்கும் இருக்கிறது ach are all vowels. So in the Brahma Sutra, you will say if there is a reference made to all the vowels, it will be written as ach. So they will make very, very, very minimal words or letters or aksharas will be used to represent an idea. So then to understand this, you need to know the background of what that word means actually. So the commentary is written by Adi Shankara. And the commentary, the Brahma Sutra makes references to Upanishads. Then Adi Shankara thought that if somebody was got to come to Brahma Sutra and read my commentary, if there are references made in the Brahma Sutra made to Upanishads, then somebody has to read the Upanishads first and come here. Correct? Now, if I'm writing an essay and I'm making college academic writing, essay they'll make citations. Citation references எல்லாம் பண்ணுவோம் இல்லையா நம்ம. அந்த references எதுக்கு பண்றோம்னா, if you want to know more, go there அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு. If I make a citation, that citation has to be valid. Somebody will then go there and read more of the citation to understand why it is cited here. Correct? அதே மாதிரி in that form of writing, now if he is written Brahma Sutra and there are references made to Upanishads, if somebody goes to Kathopanishad, then if Adi Shankara's commentary is not there for Kathopanishad, then it will be incomplete. Correct? So what he decides is, he decides to write commentary on the Upanishads. And that is why he chooses these 10. In the 10 அவர் ஏன் choose பண்றாருன்னா, these are the 10 that were made references in the Brahma Sutra in the Brahma Sutra. அதனால தான் he chooses these 10. But otherwise there are 108 Upanishads அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. நூற்றுக்கணக்கான Upanishads இருக்கு. And the list of the 108 Upanishads are made in another Upanishad called Muktiko Upanishad. There is a recursive reference. Muktiko Upanishad is an Upanishad which is an inventory or an appendix of all the Upanishads. There are 108 Upanishads, which includes the Muktiko also. So, no theater, but he didn't go ahead commenting all the 108. He selected these 10 because these are the 10 that were made reference in Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is the it is the most profound Vedanta scripture or literature. For the highest Vedantin, Brahma Sutra is the highest literature, where the whole Vedantic concepts are mentioned here. Okay. So this is the story of Adi Shankara and why these documents. I'd pause here for just a minute. There's a lot of information in it. Okay. So are we getting an idea around why Adi Shankara was important when we talk about Upanishads? So, is there any doubt or any clarification or anything that you think
பிரம்மசூத்திரத்துக்கு பாஷ்யம் மத்தவாளம் தானே எழுதியிருக்கா நிறைய? ஈவன் ராமானுஜர் கூட எழுதியிருக்காரு.
Later, so I'll come to that. You're right. பிரம்மசூத்திரத்துக்கு ஸ்ரீ பாஷ்யம்னு எழுதியிருக்கார் ராமானுஜர். So அது வந்து later. I'm talking about how Adi Shankara began this whole journey. He was the one who brought out all of this literature. அங்க வந்து தூசி படிஞ்சிட்டு இருந்தது. In the literature, he was the one who brought it out. And how he established the philosophy of Vedanta. See, ரெண்டு பார்ட்டா பார்க்கணும் ஆதி சங்கராவை. ஒன்னு வந்து he established Advaita Vedanta. But the important part is he established Vedanta. The subsequent teachers, Ramanuja, Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Ivalla, Apramandava, they gave commentary on Vedanta only, with some differentiations of what Adi Shankara had done. Adla konja differences surely they explained. But fundamentally what they also refer to is Vedanta only. But Vedanta as a scriptural study or as a text that has to be focused on was brought onto stage by Adi Shankara. Ena adukku munnadi, before the 8th century, Adi Shankara, before he came, the prevalent, as I was told, what was prevalent was Purva Mimamsa. And two people at that time were very, very popular in spreading Purva Mimamsa or Karma Kanda. Orthar per vandu Kumarila Bhattar. Kumarila Bhattar orthar. Avar vandu he was known to be an incarnation of Muruga. Lord Muruga oda incarnation, there is an aithigam, there is a belief. His name is Kumarila Bhatta and his Sishya was Mandana Mishra. Iva rendu per da vandu Kumarila Bhattar pannindirundradha, he was presenting the Karma Kanda. His Sishya Mandana Mishra, and they would go and present that Kriya pannungo, Karmam pannungo. Karmam panna ungalukku you will get the highest, which is Swarga. Adi Shankara was the one who came and broke that. Adu avarda vandu break panna. So which is why Adi Shankara becomes a cornerstone for spiritual seekers. He is the cornerstone in terms of trying to bring this differentiation. Otherwise, we would still be Upanishads and Brahma Sutra will still be cryptic. Innum cryptic arko, and it will still remain that we will still be working only with the Karma Kanda and trying to attain to Swarga. Shariya? So now this is one part. So now we draw the line there where we say Adi Shankara did the Vedanta. Okay. Now Adi Shankara brought in Vedanta, but he brought in Advaita Vedanta. Okay. Then subsequent to Adi Shankara came several other acharyas depending on the time period. And Adi Shankara was in the 8th century. Ramanuja came in the 11th century. Madhvacharya came in the 12th century. Vallabhacharya came later. Nimbarkacharya came later. Now, all of these acharyas came after Adi Shankara, and they proposed a different, alternate, or rather, I would say, not entirely opposing, but a different flavor of Vedanta. They also used the reference of Upanishads. They also used the reference of Bhagavad Gita. They also used the reference of Brahma Sutra. Ada Prasthana Trayata எடுத்துண்டு இவா வந்து அந்த டயத்துக்கு whatever was relevant to that period, that century, 11th century, 12th century, 13th century la what was relevant to appoku they made some modifications to the Vedantic exposition given by Adi Shankara, and they propounded slightly different theories. They were not in conflict. One we need to understand, none of these philosophies are in conflict. At that time, and the time period எது தேவையா இருந்தது for the masses around them, for the people in their context, they brought out this. Because when Advaita Vedanta was propounded by Adi Shankara, the followers, see, who always makes a problem are not the one who propounds the philosophy. யார் இந்த philosophy பண்ணாலும் இப்போ ஒன்றும் இல்லை. Even if you take Islam or you take Christianity, was Jesus a problem? Was Prophet Muhammad a problem? No. அதே மாதிரி ஆதிசங்கரர் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை, அதை ஃபாலோ பண்றவா தான் பிரச்சனை பண்றா. கரெக்டா? அது ஃபாலோ பண்றவா தான் பிரச்சனை பண்றா. ஏன்னா எனக்கு இதுதான், நான் தான் ஆதிசங்கரா என்னமோ வந்து இவாளுக்கு போத்தி விட்டு நீ தான்ப்பா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி பண்ண மாதிரி, நீ தான் இனிமே அப்படின்னு சொன்ன மாதிரி we feel it has come through generations, right? 1200 years have passed. Correct? Now, what we need to understand is the philosophy that comes down also gets interpreted differently by different people. So when it came down for a different context of people, Advaita Vedanta became more of Mayavad. Mayavad mari aidutadu. And then Ramanuja started to describe it differently. He called it Vishishta Advaita. Qualified monism. It is not very different in terms of philosophical outlook. It's not very different. It uses the same texts, which is the Prasthanatraya, but slight difference. Because what had happened was the people who started following this, their understanding started depleting, and the way they practiced this understanding was depleting, because it is the highest knowledge. Aham Brahmasmi is a Veda Vakya. Nobody can dispute it. No Acharya, no Guru can dispute it. It's a Veda Vakya. Aham Brahmasmi. Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvamasi. Prajnanam Brahma. நம்ம சிவானந்த ஆசிரமல பார்த்தோம். If you all remember.
சிவானந்த ஆசிரமத்துல பில்லர்ல சுத்தி போட்டு.
ஆமா, 20 points. சத்யாலாம் சில பாயிண்ட்ஸை கிளீனா நோட் பண்ணான். அந்த பில்லர்ல 20 instructions. அதுல ஒரு பக்கம் வந்து there was a வேத வாக்கிய. So அந்த வேத வாக்கியம்லாம் வந்து you can't dispute because it's a Veda. It is in the Shruti. The Shrutiல இருக்கிறது வந்து nobody will dispute. As long as you're astika, as long as you're somebody who has some faith or shraddha in the Vedic literature, in the Vedic scriptures, you're astika, you will not dispute any of this. Now, how do you differentiate the interpretation is where it matters. Kailash, you raised your hand, is it?
Question.
Yes.
If that is the case, how will Dvaitins explain Aham Brahmasmi?
They differentiate Aham and Brahma. The difference comes in the word Asmi. Okay. Now, if you take the and it comes in the interpretation, right? As I said, Aham Brahmasmi, and Sanskritam, this is one thing with Sanskrita. Today, Bhagavad Gita has 3,000 different interpretations. Bhagavad Gita, simple Sanskritam, 3,000 different interpretations. Same thing, when you write something like Aham Brahmasmi, The interpretation when they do, they would say that I am like Brahman, I am part of Brahman. The asmi, they will take the word asmi and they will break the word, because a word in Sanskritam, you know, has 3 different types of meanings, or several types of meanings actually. One is Dyutpatti Artha, Vachya Artha, Lakshya Artha, Niruddha Artha, இப்படிலாம் இருக்கு. So you can take the word and break it in a way to present your interpretation. Now, how Madhvacharya has actually done, I don't know, honestly, how he has broken that. But I'm saying this is how they do it. They take the same Vakya and then they break it to give their interpretation. Like I would know Ramanuja's to some extent, I would know because of some background on that. You'd say, I am like. So he will give a whole nyaya or a logical explanation saying I am Brahman is one interpretation, but I am like Brahman is the other interpretation. Which means you'll say the difference between water in your palm and the water in the ocean. Are they the same? Yes, they are qualitatively same, but quantitatively they are not. So these are some of these differences they bring. So, but the idea is that Vedanta, as a line of study, as a scriptural study, as moksha as the highest goal, the Uttama Purushartha, moksha as the Uttama Purushartha, and jnana as the marga to moksha was established by Adi Shankara. Okay, that is why he is critical in terms of bowing down to when we do Vedanta study. Okay. So that is the, okay. So now just to quickly touch upon what we will do now is, there are 5 more minutes. Let us chant the first shloka of Isha Upanishad. And then next week, we will go into the Upanishad. Okay, I also want to touch upon the word Upanishad itself today. Upanishad, what it means, this thing. But 5 minutes won't be enough for it. So I don't want to spill over also. So we'll do that next week. But today, let's look at the first shloka. Na chant pandren, repeat pannunga. I will flash up the Ora Namusha. Okay. Okay, I'll flash up the Sanskritam and the transliterated English. Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is because this is Vedic. Okay, and there's another thing also. Ishavasya Upanishad actually comes in the Shukla Yajurveda Samhita portion. So you may hear that also. It comes in the Samhita portion. But நீங்க சொன்னேலே சம்ஹிதா வந்து உபனிஷத் வந்து கடைசியில தானே இருக்கும். சம்ஹிதா பிராமணா ஆரண்யக உபனிஷத் அப்படின்னு இருக்குமே அப்படின்னு சொன்னா true, but the way Upanishad is classified is not based on where it is positioned in the Vedas, but based on the content it delivers. So if it is content that is related to Brahma Vidya, then you would term it as an Upanishad. So that is what the teachers, the gurus have done, the acharyas have done. So because this is in the Samhita, you will find you will find that it has let me show you this also. Okay, I'll show you the in the version. Inga paranga. This is how it will be actually. Om Isha Vasyamidham Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat அப்படின்னு வரும். Vedic way la chant பண்ணனும்னா. But then because we are not, the idea is not to learn it as a chant and do it at a homa or whatever. We will not bother ourselves with this. We will go into looking at the இந்த மேல இந்த மாதிரிலாம் இருக்காது, இந்த லைன் எல்லாம் இருக்காது, இல்ல சிம்பிளா கத்துக்கலாம் நம்ம. சரியா? ஓம் ஈஷா வாஸ்யம் இதம் சர்வம். Somebody can go off mute and repeat.
Om Ishavashyamidam sarvam
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat.
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha.
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha
Magridah kasya svidhanam.
Magridah kasya svidhanam
Ishavāsyamidam sarvam.
Ishavāsyam idam sarvam
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat.
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha.
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha
Magridah kasya svidhanam.
Magritah kasya vidhanam
Svidhanam.
dhanam
Svidhanam.
kasya vidhanam
One more time. Ishavāsyam idam sarvam.
Ishavāsyam idam sarvam
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat.
Yat kincha jagatyam jagat
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha.
Tena tyaktena bhunjitha
Magridah kasya svidhanam.
Magritah kasya vidhanam
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi yat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Sadashivayeti samarpayami. Jagadambikayeti samarpayami. Sadgurunathayeti samarpayami. Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.